For example, they are talking about public service. Okay, so public service, government, bureaucracy, organization, these things are coming into my mind. But if I have to understand the changing dynamics, what is the dynamics now changing? Because bureaucracy cannot operate in isolation of what it was intended by Weber, right? Yeah. Yes. But you know, if I have to understand that, we have to understand when it was built, that era was different. It was suited to our colonial rulers. But today we have our own government, and that government is from the democratic and republic. So we have something related to people. That means we want bureaucracy or public services to be citizen oriented or citizen centric. Then we see another difference or another landmark event that happened during the 1990 era when we were opening our economy. And at the same time, the world was going into the IT revolution. That IT revolution brought citizen-centric approach because we have to introduce computerization everywhere. And why it has been introduced? Just again to reform the system, reform the bureaucracy, reform the organization, to cater to developmental challenges. See, in the colonial rule, we have given only the challenge of revenue, right? Just we have to suck the revenue from the people because they were the colonial rulers. Then when we got independence, we have this idea to bring development in society. And what kind of development? Socialistic pattern, pro-people. But bureaucracy was not able to change its role because it was earlier rule bound. So if I have to see, you know, public service in just two connotation, I will say, one is positive and second is in the negative. Negative means what are the lacunas or what are the shortcomings of this bureaucracy? Number one, Weber told, okay, there is an organization which is rule based, just focus on the words, which is bound by rule, functions, everyone has a different function to play, and it is merit oriented, value based. Merit oriented means only who has a merit of skill that will occupy a particular position in a hierarchy. Yes, exactly. But just simply understand this. First of all, we'll understand this. Rule based. We have different well-defined goal of an organization of a particular person who is occupying that post. Right? Are you able to understand? He is given particular task, and when he will elevate in the hierarchy, he will elevate only because of his merit. So if we say secretary, years of experience. The younger chap, the SDM maybe, or the lower chap, PDO, he is having that kind of entry level of skills, right? Experience zero, only merit, pure merit, right? That means academic excellence. So now this rule based system now converted or rotten into rule bound or rule rigid system. Every time whenever the people are going, flood is coming in the district, the district magistrate is looking forward, what the rule says. No, we have to float the tender for making the arrangement for the boats, right? What it causes? Delays, rat tapeism, lal fita shahi. That means what is inordinate delays are causing. Files are moving from one place to another. Decisions are delayed. Then now, when government, understood all these things, because these are going parallelly also. Every year, UPSC as well as Department of Personnel, they are undertaking these studies, right? What is the problem? Then we see that second ARC was brought under the presidentship of Mr. Moli, the minister in that government. What he identified certain problem. Certain problem is that rule-based system converted into rule-bound system, rule-rigid system, red tapeism has come, elitism has not been given up. I mean, these class of people turn out to be elitist, status quoism. They will never change for the people. They say that we are the elite people, we have qualified such a remarkable exam, so we are different from the public. We command huge authority, and that is true. They have the discretion at their disposal, right? So these are the positive connotations that was given by Max Weber or for bureaucracy to cater the needs of that time. But as the time changes, demand changes. Today we see the economy is market oriented. The role of state is diminishing, but it is taking transformation because we have to focus on the words. We cannot write negative words. Negative words are never accepted in the exam. If you write, now the economy is converting towards market oriented, right? More market economy is coming. The state role is converting into regulatory, right? We see SEBI is there, regulatory body. Whole market or stock market is liberalized now. P notes are there, but SEBI is there, correct? So we have to understand these things. More privatization is coming up. PPP models में सारा project बन रहा है. So what is the problem then? Nepotism, favoritism in contract awarding, in tendering. So these are the negative terms. Why earlier there was the allocation or the tendering? Because government funds are not your personal funds. So these are meant for the public, spent by the scrutiny of public. That's why that oversight has to be there. But in the negative side we see that cases of corruption, nepotism, favoritism, contracts are awarded to the kith and kins of their bureaucrats or political members. So there is also an access, collusive bribery, quid pro quo. You scratch my back, I'll scratch your back, right? So these are very simple, and we have to understand only these things. We do not have to get into the so much of history, evolution of bureaucracy. I'll explain. However, I'll explain. So what we have designed this program, we will clear these concepts which are just directly asked by the UPSC. We will not go into the already we are going to cover in the governance section also in the paper, in your another GS paper, right? Governance section. But if you see ethics, it is a mixture of governance, public admin, psychology, right? So this is the one aspect. So UPSC is going to ask these questions, public service related problem. Then they will ask, okay, we have all the rules, regulation, Prohibition of Corruption Act is there, right? RTI Act is there, social audit is happening. Then again, why is the corruption? Because a civil servant is not a machine who is going to address only the acts and rules and regulation. He is coming carrying his attitudes, values, shaped by his socializations till date, and even tomorrow it will change. So moral values come into function. And what are values and what are the role of values? Conceptually, if I have to say that, there is only one thing. First, we have the belief. What is belief? It is self-imposed truth. I accept, it is simply truth. It is not the truth, right? Self-imposed. It could be rational, it could be rational. Earlier we were understanding, okay, earth is flat, so that was their belief. But today we got all the rationality over there, it is round shape or spherical shape, geoid, right? So it is very simple to understand. But we cannot write this example in ethics. We have to write society related examples. If somebody is asking you belief, what is belief? Self-imposed truth, which could be based on either rational basis or irrational basis, simply, right? What beliefs do now? We have to understand the functional aspect of these things. मेरे brain में क्या करता है belief? What it will do? How the decision making is taking place? First I believe, then I start to looking forward, is there rationality, is there logical reasoning is there or not? Then only I'll come up with a decision. If it is there, that is prior experience is there, present, or prior understanding and knowledge, yani cognitive development should be there. If you have your cognitive or your cognition understanding is there about that particular situation or thing, you will say, okay, this is not a snake, this is simply a rope, right? So this is how we, come to a decision. Are you able to understand? So belief act as filter to decide something, good or bad, right or wrong, correct? Simple. One can believe in God, one cannot, because he says that I have not seen God, simple. Other says that it is not the things to be seen. This is something to be felt, the energy to be felt, right? Anyway, now we have to write with the perspective of the society. Beliefs can turn into prejudice at one point, blind faith, right? So this is a simple example to write in an ethics exam. Second thing comes as value. When you concretize your belief, you start developing your value, okay? And what the value do? Value means simply what you value, what individual value. Individual value something good to decide good or bad, right or wrong for himself or for herself, to act in particular situation or circumstance or in general. You may value punctuality, he may value something else, he may value integrity, you may value honesty, he may value something else. So these are the individual values. That's why individual differences exist. So certain theories has to be drawn from psychology. That is socialization, how socialization act, how it is used or how it is taking place in our decision making. So what if I have to say public servant has to do with all these things? Because he is carrying all these values. whenever the moment of discretion will come, he will not act by rule book. Maybe there is a certain situation which is, because you know you cannot document everything in the code of conduct or the rules regulation book. Certain spaces are always left at his discretion. So when his discretion has to come, his value system will act what to do. And in the value system, he may come across with ethical dilemma. So see, the number one word which is always you will find since 2013 till date, ethical dilemma, ethical dilemma. Ethical dilemma is simple. Dilemma means a confusion. Dilemma means short of decision making. When you are, you know, why it is happening, number one. And why it is happening in your brain. Why you are not able to decide. Can you tell me why we are not able to decide in particular situation what to do? There are, let's say, 3 paths are given. To which path shall I go?
So, competing values.
Competing values, true.
Public value or my subjective individual values.
Yeah, perfect.
Integrity will happen.
Yep. That is functional aspect in particular, with respect to particular value. Good. When I do not know which way is good for me means which decision I have to take, whether A, B or C, right, or D, E, whatever. There is a competition between ethical values. You see that this is also good, this is also good. If I take a bribe, let's say, yeah, this is no harm because he is giving some gratification to me and I can do his work. And there is no public harm. In certain situation we understand in this manner, and he is also needy at the same time. Let's say some very poor person, this what I am talking about, this case study was asked in the question paper, I think it was in 2017. A poor man came to the office of a SDM office. He was asking for a job because that job was reserved for the deceased person of a soldier. So he was asking for the widow of his son, job for his wife, whose son was already in earlier was in army and he got martyred. So he was asking, but at the same time that post was also, there was another guy who was also equally competent. So he was confused now. SDM could be confused. Okay, yaar, he did a lot of work, but he offered something to SDM. Okay, if you provide him the job, we will give you some bribe or some money for kind or deed. So here you will be in the dilemma now. Yeah, I am helping and he is eligible to the criteria. I can give. There is no harm, no scrutiny, no audit will fuck up. So what will happen now? This is a dilemma, and now I want to understand why this dilemma is coming into his brain. It is clear-cut case. If he is having a rule book, he can follow the rule book. He is having the laws, he can follow the laws. If constitution permits, he can permit. Then what is happening in the decision making? This is a discretion level. Emotional intelligence is also there. But these are, functional aspects which will come later. But I am asking why dilemma is coming into his brain. Just because his mind or his value system is incapable to decide in that moment. See, if you are completely okay with your values now, I will follow integrity, I will exhibit honesty, nobody can shake you. Why you are shaken? Because at that time that honesty is carrying some subjectivity or vagueness, right? Because honesty is a comprehensive word. But when it comes to the functional aspect, it is different roles. If you have to judge your honesty in a personal relation, being truthful, simply honesty, right? But if you have to understand this honesty in your public life, what is that honesty? Are you going to tell everything to everyone? Okay, we are going to plan this, plan that. No. But honesty means you are honest towards the monetary transactions. Public fund should not be wasted and it should be as per the rules and regulation, right? So this is the demand of the UPSC, because when these dynamic changes are coming up in the society, social acceptance to corruption. Now see, this is a society. So if I have to say ethics, it is a relationship of a bureaucrat or a public servant with state and people, right? Because he is only the human being in all these interfaces. And one decision impacts millions of people, right? One policy impacts whole population. Recent case we have seen when this farmer protest was going on in Haryana, that SDM, right? 18th ranker, he ordered, okay, do the lathi charge, just blow it off all, clear the space. And what answer he gave, what justification he gave? We were preparing for last 48 hours here in order to control this protest, and these farmers are coming to our head. हमारे सिर पे चढ़े जा रहे हैं, protest करने आ गए हैं. is he able to understand the grievances coming out of protest? Why they are protesting? Because of those three form laws, right? If you say now, the process has been violated first of all, because in case study you have to understand all these things, these nuances. Why protest happens? Is it my whims and fancy? That means it is anarchy by public. When the rule of law is established, public government is authorized to just nullify this protest or neutralize this protest. But just understand why protest is happening. You can say it is my right. Why? Because Constitution also provide under Article 19 freedom of speech and expression 1A. But when your grievances are unaddressed, so you have to write grievances goes unaddressed, procedures were not followed in the parliament, so people came out on the streets, they protested in a peaceful manner under the Article 19(1)(a). In the Supreme Court, in the various court pronouncements also have established that we can have the peaceful protest to protest against the government, right? Secondly, protest is going on. Now you have to control. If SGM had shown the emotional intelligence to understand this, so he would not have resorted to the brutality by lathi charge. He could have resorted to other peaceful mechanisms, right? Are you able to comprehend this? So we have to resolve case study. We have understood the concept, right? Why dilemma and why you take such a particular decision and what can help you to take decision, right? In this particular case, emotional intelligence came to a savoy or like a yardstick to address the problem. Anyway, so this is the one aspect. And when we see second aspect, UPSC is asking applied questions. One is from international relation, second is coming from generally from environmental ethics, third is coming from some dynamics of society, how society is understanding to technological development or globalization. Number 4, it is coming from corporate governance, right? Then we come to the quotation based question, and few questions are asked on this concept. What is probability? What it can do? What is the main function, or why it is important? Probability. We have already talked. Corruption increasing day by day. Why? Despite of all the social audit, RTI Act, there are the lacunae in these implementation. And at the same time, there is social acceptance to corruption. Right? Everybody says it's okay to have a part of little bit corruption. Don't go beyond 100 crores. Be in the limits to it. So this is kind of the level of the value system we have. That's why there is a degradation of values and ethical dilemmas is coming up. And system is rotten. Right? So ethics is asking only these conceptual understanding and answer and examples. If I have to say, if you have to write distinctive examples, just go to the periphery of society, like LGBT's right? Just think about it. Manual scavenging is still prevalent in society, right? Cyberbullying against old people, women, children, pornography, everything is there. What is unethical? Even the old people are affected. Fraudulent cases are coming up. Those who do not have the digital literacy, they are affected by it. Right? So those stakeholders who are not directly making their stake, they are also pulled into this as a stakeholders. Right? So this is the section A. And now the last part of it is that quotation based answers. How do we have to tackle those? See, more or less every year we say that Mahatma Gandhi, Abdul Kalam, maybe Socrates. So these philosophers are asked, Buddha. So I think we all know a little bit about him, or about these authors, these quotation makers, right? These philosophers. But we have to, just try to understand why this quotation has been made and what could be its relevance today. That's why ethics is asking. That's why our general studies paper 4 is asking for this particular quotation. So we have to understand this pattern, simple, right? And there are the hundreds of examples you will find to address in particular quotation. So what I have seen so far, people just, literally explain that quotation and they do not connect with the current relevance. So our idea is to connect that quotation with the current relevance today. What is the relevance today? Okay, what are those problems of society which society is struggling, or what quotation or what way forward it could show us, right? Simply. Socrates, we all know that he has documented a hell lot of things about morality. So we have to again talk about morality. So we will also understand what is the difference between ethics and moral, or ethics and morality. These are the difference, little bit of difference, okay. Now, third thing is that when we have to write quotation based answers, when quotation will be coming, like 3 quotations generally are coming in UPSC, 2 or 3, 6A, B, C. simply you have to write the introduction, either the core meaning, if you are able to understand the core meaning of that quotation. Do not copy the quotation, number one thing, or just explain with respect to the author. I mean, like Vivekananda has said something, so we should understand when the time was of Vivekananda, at the time India was struggling with the role of missionaries in India. Our confidence was very low. So Vivekananda brought a new leash of energy among the youth to understand the role of youth, and he connected this youth energy with the national spirit, nationalistic spirit. What is our role duty? So he just made us to being confident in our own religion, in our own past, right? If you are able to write these words now, definitely nobody can stop you in giving marks. And then just explain, and then we have to somewhere use block diagrams also. That's a very good thing in ethics, and that is well tested method, personally well tested method. I have drawn so many examples, I mean so many, this block diagrams and fetch marks. In this manner you can optimize your time, because you need more time to address those case studies. Let me come to the second part now, then I will explain how we'll take it up this course, right? In second part, when case studies will come up, you have to read the case study in English or Hindi or whatever is comfortable for you. If you are not able to comprehend one language, just switch to another language, right? Simply identify three things. Number one, stakeholders. Who all are stakeholders? I'll tell you what is the meaning of stakeholder. I think it is very easy to understand also. Second thing, values at stake. What are those values which are at stake in particular case study, right? Number three, what ethical issues or ethical dilemmas are present. Whether question is asking you or not, you simply have to work upon these things, three things. Because what you have to do in the end when you write the solution means you have to preserve those values which are at stake earlier, or which those ethical values or ethical issues has to be resolved by your solution which were as issues in the starting, right? I'll take up the example also, don't worry. So this is how we have to proceed. And what you can do when you have to write, you simply just use block diagrams to write these stakeholders. If you are confident that there are three stakeholders, make triangle, the stakeholders are as follows, right? Or just make a circle for the safer side and make an arrows, 3-4 arrows, and just start writing those things. Then come to the second point. Particular case studies comprises of the following ethical issues. Then explain. Never write fact of the cases, because these are already given. Don't waste your time, because he want to see your lucidity in the example, or in the answer writing, or how you resolve. And when you will come to the end now, it is not required you have to write a concluding para also. What you can do, simply these are the measures, long term or short term. But short term means you have to immediately respond to it. And when you have to write long term, maybe people write, but I won't suggest. You can write simply in the steps, point number 1, point number 2, or you can say this is the immediate solution. But this solution has to be replicated or amplified to resolve the larger issue of society. I'll give example. It was asked in 2015. We will take it up in the classroom also. Can I have a tea in between? Sorry, weather and this traveling is compelling me to take. Okay. All right. So that case study was about a school. There were the certain, it was a social problem of eve teasing. So they made that in a particular school, some parents asked their children or the girl children to withdraw their names, because that school was famous for the eve teasing. Whenever the girls are coming out of the school in the evening or after that time, so they find that eve teasing cases by the boys. So many of their parents have withdrawn their admission from that. Now you are acting as a principal. So it asks that what are the stakeholders, what are the values at stake, and what are the ethical issues, and what could be the solution. However, in the UPSC question paper, they ask only how will you resolve the issue. Okay. If we see the stakeholders, who are the stakeholders? Who is the key stakeholder here? Girl child. Yeah, perfect. Very good. Who is the second one? Principal. Principal is second one, but we will write it at the end, because you are acting as a principal over there. Parents. Right. Number 3, police also, because they are not able to control eve teasing problem. It is a social problem, police problem, right? Anyway, We are able to understand this. What are the ethical issues now? Number one, what could be the striking ethical issue? A striking one which should come at the priority number one. Just think. ईव टीजिंग केस में सबसे पहला क्या होना चाहिए?
Law and order respect for women.
Respect of women is also there, but this case is not directly of eve teasing. It was about girl education.
Education, fundamental rights.
Yeah, fundamental right. Yes, education. Because parents have withdrawn their admission, their education will not be completed. What will be they do? What they will do in their life, right? Girl education has to be. अब इसमें आपको एक idea हो गया है कि what is the key problem over here? Key problem is girl education has to be continued. It has to be restored by resolving eve teasing problem, because that problem is separated. But that problem has created a link between this. Girl education got stopped.
Against the gender parity.
Yes, absolutely right. Very good.
Patriarchy.
Patriarchy is the problem. Why they withdrawn? Because they are not going to police. They are asking women to come down. They are asking girls to come down. Okay, just settle down. This will happen. Nobody is going to solve. This is a manifestation of patriarchy. So the dimension of society has to come up, right? Of course, poor law and order problem. Now you can write simply. Now you have to tell me, as a principal, what steps you could take. What could be the first step?
First of all, there is a counseling of parents, especially before the child. Please do not withdraw home education.
Very nice.
And second one is counseling of that girl child as well. Because there's a mental trauma she is also afraid.
Very nice. ये भी अच्छा है.
Linking with the police की like किस time पे girls के जाने का रहता है तब पेट्रोलिंग.
पेट्रोलिंग ज़्यादा रहे. Very good. कैमरास का इंस्टॉलेशन कर सकते हैं स्कूल के आसपास, है ना? To help police, right? Number, anything more can come up?
Level should be more strengthened.
अब एम्पावर करेंगे हम गर्ल चाइल्ड को. वी विल एम्पावर देम. यस, मार्शल आर्ट सिखा देंगे. यस यस यस. सेंसिटाइजेशन. और एट द सेम टाइम सेंसिटाइजेशन ऑफ बॉयज प्रेजेंट इन द स्कूल, राइट? एटलीस्ट वी कैन टेम और वी कैन रिफॉर्म आवर स्टूडेंट्स, वी कैन रिफॉर्म आवर बॉयज, and then we can also involve civil society to bring out these changes, because as a principal you cannot do everything. So what I have to say, when you identify the solution, just now your solution should be under the ambit of constitution, your legal position, your authority, and you cannot write exaggeratedly, okay, I'll do that, I'll bring that. Never write I. Okay, so you can write once but not so many times. Then you can write in the third person.
As a principal.
Yeah.
As
As
a principal.
a principal, following steps will be taken up to change attitude. Here also you can use diagram. Like if you identified, okay, there are the three pillars, right? To address law and order, involve police. To counsel parents or change attitudes of the society and parents and children and the boys, we will involve civil society.
So
Media sensitization, right?
Can we use the extreme words like must? There should be must.
No, I know, because it is not about the extreme word. It is you are dictating someone, but you have to solve the problem. How would you dictate? You have to be part of the problem now, है ना? So I would say reference should and must, because that doesn't look practically possible. That no, you should do, they have to do. Simply what I could do, I will do. है ना? I'll sensitize people. I'll sensitize society through involvement of media campaigns as well as civil society participation. And if you know some real incident that's happened in the past, you can link this particular case study, highlights or manifest a case related to this particular current affairs. We can directly link that. So that also, Hanji.
For example of Nirbhaya case.
Of course, yes.
After that, Delhi has the largest number of cameras social press capability in the world.
Bilkul, yes, absolutely right. You can write. We have to write. Not you can, we have to write in order to get marks. See, UPSC is not asking you to flourish information, but more information you will give, more marks they will give you. But that information should be in a very precise manner. Just give headings, these examples, in a simply one line, two-liner examples are sufficient. As I told you, if some question is asking about what are the social problems still Indian society faces, you say, okay, caste system up to some extent, but not up to greater extent, right? You can say that problem has taken a shape or retransformed into something else. Like we still see that caste-based violence, for example, it happened in the Saharanpur, 2019 riots. This is how we can write. Simply in a 1 or 2 line only. Manual scavenging is still prevalent. Despite of the law is present there, despite of this fact, it is not implemented yet, right? It is prevalent, and if you know any of the district, just write it. I've seen, I mean, you also have seen several times in Delhi also, in Indore also, in any of the place you go, manual scavenging is still prevalent, right?
Railways is the biggest employer.
Railway is the biggest employer. Yeah.
Case study.
ये आप डाल सकते हो. Railway is the biggest employer of the manual scavenger. This fact shows that manual scavenging is still prevalent.
केस स्टडीज में लाइक कोई अगर कोई पॉलिटिकल थिंकर जो प्लेटफॉर्म है
देखो उसमें क्या है ना, वी शुड रेफ्रेन फ्रॉम ब्रिंगिंग दोज पीपल बिकॉज यू नो व्हाट विल हैपन. ओके, इन 1 or case study 1 or 2 you can write, but do not write in all the 6 case studies.
एग्जांपल्स लाइक एग्जांपल मैंने स्टडी दैट इट इज जस्ट लाइक
Against the it is against the public morality or dignity, human dignity. That word should come up.
there is a code of Immanuel Kant of human dignity should be quoted.
Yes, we cannot forget the Immanuel Kant about the categorical imperative in order to preserve humanity, right? We can write it. Simply we can also write, but try to quote, do not try to do not chase these philosophers to make your case studies better, because case studies will give you answers when you resolve those things or when you present the answer. It is more about presentation and less about your bulky content. I mean stakeholders, ethical issues and solution. And in the solution you can write why you have taken such an act. For example, as we were talking about that eve teasing case, fundamental right of 19(1)(a) right to education has to be preserved, and in order to compete globally we have to make our women empowered, right? Simply we can write these things. Any convention come to your mind, for example labor problem is there, ILO conventions are there to safeguard the interest of labor. Convention, international conventions are also important. So what we will do at the end, let me also tell you what we will do in the end of this complete syllabus. When you are going to write your examination, the mains, before that, before maybe 2 weeks before or 1 week before, we will again take up the brush up class so that we can discuss all the important topics that were happening in the past so far, so that we would be able to see whether particular case study will come. We will write these conventions, right? We will have a little bit of set of those conventions, and then we will have some set of acts also from constitution and other acts and policies like Skill India, Make in India. These we all do have. So we have to simply write those names. Jan Dhan Yojana. We have hell lot of information when we are preparing for paper 3. That's why this paper 4 is very easy to answer for answering your case studies, right? Convention, acts, and there are few acts like Article 14, equality before law, about human dignity, 14 to 18, right? Child labor, 24, right? Human trafficking, 24. If you find slavery, human trafficking or something related to humanism, Article 24. Yes. If it is something coming with the religious context, 25, 26, Article 30, 29, minorities, institutions, right? Because
Can you write this short stories like in answer? Ethical, there's a good ethical dilemmas or some learning.
I mean, your self-innovated stories, or how?
So if I read some in newspaper and magazine page and all.
Yes, but that is advisable, not a. See, number one, nothing is wrong in writing, but you have to see the demand of the question and the space given to you. If you are able to do that, of course, yes. Why not?
There is an article in the Hindu, some remote village and women's girl child's education because of some river is flooded and they are.
Of course, that is what I have said.
Yeah.
You can, in the starting, even you can write starting. This particular case studies pertains to the case related to this particular district or happened in particular timeline. Simple, write that. As I told you, that about that SDM. If you want to write about emotional intelligence, you can simply quote the incident of Haryana protest case when this SDM undertook this stage, reflect the sort of emotional intelligence. Okay, so now what I have to tell you, this ethics is all about solutions, suggesting solutions, right? So in our program, what we have decided so far, we all have decided, we will also can discuss if you are finding some amendments to be there in the program now. we will focus on answer writing, and for answer writing I can understand if you have short of understanding or short of content, first of all we will supply that, but at the same time we will take answer writing from you. Will it be okay? For that matter, what I've decided, if you are comfortable, we will completely it will start from next week. Okay, today and tomorrow, tomorrow also I am available here. We will take a session. In that session, I'll discuss case study in the written format. Okay, how case study has to be answered. Well, I'll explain you how you can answer the case study, and that case study, then I will give you 2-3 case study or maybe more or one in the starting. Then you will write and submit to me whether you are right physically or at home or here, or just scan it and send it to me, and I will evaluate it completely, give you the micro and macro comments, give what you have written and what has to be written, right, on individual copy. Then we can discuss one-to-one, right, because in that case one-to-one may be on Zoom call or physically present here, that we will do. This is the modality, right? And for that matter, I'll share the plan. We will have certain classes in the starting just to explain bureaucracy, public administration, public these concepts of corporate governance, definitions of emotional intelligence, probity or the values, foundational values of civil services, objectivity, integrity, like these things, right? This is concept understanding. We will also supply you written notes, right? The precise definitions, how we can write. When we have to write, for example, emotional intelligence, just quote Daniel Goleman, defined is in this manner. Probity, second ARC defined probity as. I mean, not every time you have to write, but in certain, it reflects you have something substantial basis, right? You are asking enough for the whether we can mention some report or fact. Yes, of course we have to do that. RTI Act, second ARC there that everything under the sun should be. RTI means everything should be under the sun. सबको दिखना चाहिए. Transparency, that is transparency. It's a very wonderful quote, right? Anyway, now I will wind up. So this course will start like this. We will just explain the concepts, we will give you updated with the theory and content, and then you have to write answers. We will evaluate your answers and submit to us. We will then again have the discussion on that by writing your micro and macro comments. What you have written good, what you have not written good part, what has to be written, right? Are you able to understand?